Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Friday, October 28th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Penn State game is tomorrow, the game against Michigan in 29 days. Earlier this week, we did a show where Kevin Noon and I were talking all about the interesting stuff we heard from Ryan Day, Kevin Wilson, and Jim Knowles. We got through most of it, realized there was a ton of great stuff we hadn't gotten to yet, and talked about the fact on the air that we would have to do another show this week with clips from some of those interviews. So, ta-da, today is that day. We're going to start with something I have always been curious about. When coaches watch film of an opponent for the first time, what is the first thing they look for? I got a chance to ask both Kevin Wilson and Jim Knowles about that this week, and it was really interesting to hear how different their answers were. So I'm going to play those back to back, starting with Jim Knowles.
Explosive plays, right? I mean, you want to look first at how they're making their explosive plays, out of what formations, what scheme. You know, I think explosive plays are a big part of stopping a team. So we definitely look at that, look at things, and then it's just an hours long process of looking at, formations and down and distances and tendencies and field position. And, there's a lot of writing, a lot of scribbling, for myself in terms of the way I do it. But everybody probably has a different process, but that's how I go.
My process is different because a lot of years I've been in the box. So like, I don't like to look at words. Like we can put our video up and it says what the play is. I don't want to see the words. I want to get a snapshot because you got 2 or 3 seconds. Okay, where's the front set? Where's the extra backers? What's the coverage? What's the rotation? Did they blitz? Did they stunt? So it's like snapshot. It's like flashcards. Give me a flashcard. Give me a flashcard. So I just kind of rapid fire, look at it. We get several views of the game from end zone and sideline view. And initially you're just getting a feel of the structure of what, how the flow of the game. Sometimes, we get snapshots. So you start looking at cut-ups and you just see certain plays, you get a feel. Sometimes it's really nice to watch the flow of the game more than just this formation and how they line up to this set and that set. So it's a combination of what are they doing? Like, typically you watch 2 or 3. I watch 2 or 3 games Sunday night real fast, just as, there's a lot of man, a lot of zone, a lot of pressure, there's a lot of penetration, there's a lot of movement. What are you seeing just generally? And then you come in Monday and you start getting a little bit more specific. Okay, to this formation, what do you see? And then the next day, these situations, short yardage, goal line, long yardage, 2-minute, coming out, what do you see? So it starts with generalization. Who are their best players? What are the problems? This team's a pressure team. Okay, what are the pressure problems? This team's really good up front. This team's a great coverage team. What are the problems? And then you start peeling it back from there. And then coach, what he does, he has everyone has certain segments that, okay, go study this and bring some ideas to the table. We all talk about it together, but every guy has different areas that, quote, is their expertise. They look at every week and they'll bring some things to the table. And like, tomorrow we'll start with short yardage and goal line. Okay, what do you like? We'll bring me and Coach Fry will bring some things to the table, Coach Hinton and Coach Alford, and then we all hash it out and go from there. 3rd and long, what do you have? Hash it out, go from there.
Tony Gerderman asked Ryan Day a somewhat related question. How often do you find yourself in a situation where what you've seen on film in the lead up to the game is not at all like what you see from a team during the game itself? Is that something that Day spends time worrying about and trying to prepare for in advance?
Well, that's how I spend probably the 48 hours leading up to a game, is exactly what you just said, and have a lot of sheets of contingency plans in place for what if. And we'd say sometimes you're chasing ghosts, but I've been in games before where, we didn't chase those ghosts and we didn't have answers, and that's not a good feeling. So it's our job as coaches to have answers and to put our players in best position to be successful. So that's our job.
Day was also asked about Penn State offensive coordinator Mike Yurcich. Now, he was an Ohio State assistant back in 2019 and played a role in helping to recruit CJ Stroud. That turned into a very funny story about how Ryan Day skipped the College Football Awards show and apparently got fined for it because they were visiting Stroud at home that night instead.
Yeah, first up big with that first year in developing Justin, which was really important, and then certainly had a huge hand in recruiting CJ. I remember when he and I were out in California recruiting, and I was supposed to be at the Home Depot Awards that I missed, Jerry, and we got in trouble that night. Remember, because I wasn't there. Well, and I think they wanted to fine us for that, but I was. Maybe did they? Yeah. Well, find you. Well, we were doing a home visit with CJ Stroud, so they can find us. They can find us whatever they want. But that was on a Thursday after the Big Ten championship game, and he was a big hand in that, and certainly had a great relationship with he and Kim and the whole family. So, but a very good mind, very sharp, always creative, and a really good play caller.
Jim Knowles talks a lot about how his defense is safety driven. He was asked about two of those safeties who have been a big part of the team's success this year, Lathan Ransom and Tanner McAllister.
Lathan, I've told you all along, has just been a guy that I've been totally impressed with since he emerged, since he was able to practice, because not looking at much from last year and not having him go in the spring, didn't know what to expect. But yeah, he's got a hot hand. He's just he's one of those safeties that can see the forest through the trees and pull his trigger and go. So guys playing like that, yeah, you want to keep them going. And Tanner, I've said it all along, just he brings a coaching presence to the room in terms of understanding the system, having answers for the other guys. Also, he knows me, so he knows how I coach and what I'm trying to do. And it's always good to have somebody younger, who can talk about that to the players.
Finally, a couple of really interesting questions for Kevin Wilson, who is always a fantastic interview. One was about one of my personal hobby horses, how they decide when to go for it and when to kick it on fourth down.
I mean, it's, each game's different, weather, wind, situation, how you're playing. Coach, years ago when I was working with Coach Stoops, he was very aggressive as a defensive guy because he kind of felt you need to get the first down because I don't know if we're stopping them. And I remember sometimes I said, I couldn't believe you went for that. He goes, I didn't matter. Years ago, I think everybody's critical. I think Coach Belichick going against the Colts went for it. He goes, whether I give the ball here or down there, he's going to score. So I need to get a first down. So are you in the mindset of you have to get the first down? Sometimes, we got a great punter that pooches it deep. And if the yardage gets to that 3 and 4 and 5 muddy area, maybe you just, pooch it, pin them down because your defense is playing really strong and you can play 3 or 4 snaps and get it right back. That's in our plan to win. Field position's big in our plan to win. Part of field position is trying to get the first 2 first downs, get the ball to midfield. If you bog down, punt it deep, get the defense pack down there and get it right back in midfield and start again. So, I think if people got an analytically, people talk a lot about analytics. I think football coaches look at a piece of paper and we all sit here for hours and we plan and script everything. I think some of the greatest coaches in our game are basketball coaches that go on feel and flow. I need a timeout. I need to go full court. I need a zone. I need to pack it in. They make adjustments. And as football coaches, you have to make adjustments. I think the really good coaches, I think Coach Day does a great job. It's feel. And you feel like I need to go get it. Now we still got to trust the players and execute, run play or pass play. The day of a short yardage fourth down, we threw it. But it's a one-on-one throw. I mean, it's a high percentage throw with a really good quarterback and a really good receiver. So you can say you didn't run it for half a yard, but it was a loaded box, more than you can block, and a good one-on-one match. So I think you got to trust your gut, trust your players, trust your judgment. And I think when you get greedy, you get burned for what it's worth. So you just got to be smart.
And lastly, one of those great inside football questions. You'll see the coaches talking on headsets during the game, but what is actually getting said there? Like, who is saying what and when and to whom?
We throw some stuff, but you got to be careful. There's not a lot of talking during plays. I know for a long time having called that sometimes, when the play is called before we run, hey, coach, next play, hey, you think how about a counter? Hey, do you think we need a misdirection play? Do you think we should take a shot, move the pocket? You don't do that right when he's ready to. So there's an art of when to talk because too much talk leads to clutter. Leads almost you've got a thought. I'm seeing you hear something. It's like somebody throwing you a curveball there. Like, hey, well, where's that coming from? So there's a calculated way to work together, and I think we do that well. We do it really well. A lot of times, like, hey, Kevin, Justin, Tony, give me 2 runs, 3 runs this next drive. Which 2 do you like the best? And then sometimes he'll build the passing with that as we move down the field as we go to. So it's a collective effort. There's a little bit of talking, but typically it's once the play's called, hey, hey, coach, this one, if you want it, or don't say anything. It's done before the drive and let the flow of the game kind of go.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that. That felt like a bunch of interviews where you kind of got answers to questions that you've maybe been wondering about for a while, and maybe didn't know who to ask. Well, now you have answers to some of those questions you may have been wondering about for a while. So, thought you guys might enjoy that one. I am quite certain you guys will enjoy our coverage this weekend from Happy Valley and State College, Pennsylvania. Kevin Noon, Tony Gerderman, and I will be there. We'll have a Friday afternoon live show. That's the plan. A Buckeye Weekly live afternoon episode on Friday, and then a pregame show Saturday morning. And of course, the live wall-to-wall post-game coverage you have come to know and expect from Buckeye Huddle after the game. Tony and Kevin and I in State College, Mark Givler and Devin Radcliffe from parts somewhere in Ohio, covering the Buckeyes there, interviews with players, coaches, all that great stuff. A good solid 2+ hours of coverage generally after every Ohio State game, all at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.